No bias.
You will respect my authority.
No pulled punches.
Your wife cheated on you because you lost sight of who you are as a man, as a husband.
No agenda.
There is no fear in this dojo.
This is No Hyperbole.
This is the best part of the week.
Here's the maestro, Mike Baum.
I am the smartest man alive.
All right, here we go. Number 5, the Sins of St. Nick on Saturday, October 15th. 6th-ranked Tennessee hosted 3rd-ranked Alabama in front of 101,000 lunatics at General Neyland Stadium in Knoxville. Tennessee led 28-10 in the second quarter before Alabama rallied to take a 49-42 lead with just under 8 minutes to go. The Vols tied it at 49 with 3.5 minutes remaining. Alabama drove to the Tennessee 32 with 34 seconds left. Tennessee with all 3 timeouts remaining. Bryce Young threw an incomplete pass on first down. Tennessee used a defensive timeout for alignment on second down. Then Bryce Young threw an incomplete pass on second down and an incomplete pass on third down, leaving 4th and 10 with 20 seconds remaining. Will Reichard then missed a 50-yard field goal, leaving the Volunteers with 15 seconds and 2 timeouts. Hendon Hooker completed an 18-yard pass to midfield. Timeout, 9 seconds to go. Then he found Brew McCoy for 27 yards to the tied 23-yard line. Timeout, 2 seconds to go. Chase McGrath nails a 40-yard field goal, and the Volunteers upset the Tide 52-49. Here's the question. How does Nick Saban not run the ball on 2nd and 3rd down? Hooker had already thrown for over 340 yards on just 29 pass attempts before the final drive. Alabama's field goal attempt has to either be the last play of the game or it has to occur with Tennessee having no timeouts left. 7 national titles don't get you a free pass here, Coach Saban. Number 4, DINO the Dinosaur. Last Saturday's matchup between the two undefeateds, number 14 Syracuse and number 5 Clemson in South Carolina, sadly may have been the game of the week. The Orange led 21-10 at half and also after 3 quarters before the Tigers rallied in the 4th. Clemson led 24-21 when Syracuse stopped them on 3rd down at the Orange 27, forcing 4th and 2. That's when it took Syracuse head coach Dino Babers 25 seconds to decide to use his final timeout. The clock ticked down from 1:58 to 1:33. B.T. Potter hit a 44-yard field goal to give Clemson a 27-21 lead. Syracuse did drive to the Clemson 30 with 23 seconds left before Garrett Schrader was picked off by R.J. Mickens at the 15-yard line, ending the game. One can only wonder how it would have played out if they would have had 48 seconds to work with at the 30-yard line. In his Monday press conference, Babers immediately addressed the clock management issue.
I'm going to start with the 25 seconds, okay? There was a mistake on our part. It's been handled internally. It was a 25-second mistake. And based off of how we do things, I feel like it's corrected, and that will not happen or should not happen again. But no doubt there was a 25-second mistake on the clock, and that was bad.
Yes, Coach, it was bad. And handled internally? Who ultimately is responsible for deciding when you call timeouts? Isn't it you? And if it wasn't you, has it been changed away from you or to you? This isn't the first clock management issue during Babers' tenure at Syracuse, and we are all sure it won't be the last. Number 3, offensive guru. The Arizona Cardinals face their NFC West division foe, Seattle Seahawks, in Seattle on Sunday, October 16th. What a get-right spot for Kyler Murray and the Cardinal offense. The Seahawks had just given up 45 points to Jared Goff and the Lions and 39 points to Andy Dalton and the Saints. Their previous 3 opponents had rolled up 1,400 yards of offense. On the opening drive, Matt Amendola hit a 23-yard field goal to give the Cardinals the lead. That would be their only offensive score of the day as they lost 19-9 to the Seahawks. Were Murray and the Cardinals stonewalled by Bozo the Carroll? Of course not. They actually outgained and outpossessed the Seahawks. What happened? Well, our hero, Cliff Kingsbury, refused to kick any more field goals. Tied 3-3 at the end of the first quarter, he passed on a 38-yard field goal to go on 4th and 4. Trailing 9-3 early in the third quarter, he passed on a 45-yard field goal to go on 4th and 2. And trailing 19-9 with 10 minutes to go in the game, he passed on a 41-yard field goal that would have made it a one-possession game. Of course, they couldn't convert for 4th and 2 as Kyler Murray was sacked for a 12-yard loss. I wonder if Bill Bidwill realizes that Kingsbury isn't even the best NFL head coach on his staff. That would be Vance Joseph. How many straight weeks can Kingsbury make this list? Anthony Lynn, watch out. Number 2, don't be like Mike. Steelers took on the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football in Miami, leading 16-10 midway through the third quarter. Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel opted not to kick a 30-yard field goal to give his team a 2-score lead. Instead, he handed the ball off to Chase Edmonds for no gain on 4th and 3. That decision loomed large as the Dolphins would punt on their final 5 possessions. The Steelers actually had 2 opportunities to win the game in the final 4 minutes with a touchdown, but both times Kenny Pickett was intercepted deep in Dolphin territory. So why didn't McDaniel take the 3 points to make it a 2-possession game? He said after the game, quote, "I think at that moment I had some faith in the players, that regardless you do it and you don't convert, it's a bad decision because you have points. It would have been a 2-score game. I take full responsibility, and luckily we were able to come up with a win." Beyond the horrific decision to go for it, how about the play call? Edwards has been their least reliable offensive weapon. Raheem Mostert has been by far the better back. And then you have Edwards line up right next to Tua in the shotgun. Why not throw the ball? You've got plenty of weapons you added to Tua's arsenal. A bad decision, but a worse play call. And number 1, what Browns can be done to you. It was a bizarre sequence of events in the closing minutes of the game in Baltimore Sunday between the Browns and the Ravens. The Browns trailed 23-20 with 2:09 remaining. They lined up to kick a 55-yard field goal. The Ravens jumped off sides. Flags were thrown, whistles were blown. This would shorten the attempt to 50 yards. But after a long huddle by referee Sean Smith's crew, a false start was called against Browns guard Michael Dunn. Replays don't show any movement by Dunn or any member of the Browns offensive line. Now the Browns face 4th and 10 at the Ravens' 42. Undaunted, Kevin Stefanski sends York out there to try a 60-yard field goal. The attempt was tipped and went way left. The ball hits the ground with 2:06 remaining on the clock. At 2:04, Ravens players can be seen rushing on the field to celebrate. And yet the clock operator in Baltimore let the clock run down to 1:59 underneath the 2-minute warning. The Ravens got the ball, ran 3 times, and punted. The Browns got the ball back on their own 20 with only 16 seconds remaining. If the clock had stopped correctly outside of the 2-minute warning, the Browns would have had 56 seconds left. Of course, as my dad used to say, if things were different, they wouldn't be the same. The bigger point here is that clock operators work with little to no scrutiny. It's amazing how many times during games that a clock should be running as it isn't, and in this case, shouldn't have been running and was. Coaches should be allowed to challenge mistakes of the clock, and referees should be held accountable for making sure the clock is running or not running at appropriate times, not just whether it's on the last play of the game. And that is no hyperbole.
There you go. Great job as always. Okay, so we've gotten a little bit carried away here, you think? It's tipped in to one side of the teeter-totter here is all the way down compared to where it should be with the analytics and taking the points?
I'll tell you, if you watch 2 coaches that take the points almost every time, it's Saban and Belichick.
Visit VSiN.com to get current odds, listen for free, find showtimes, and download VSiN sports betting podcasts.